what you're saying is the Cluley family is dabbling.
No.
What happens between you, Mrs. Cluley, and the Roomba doesn't need to surface on the podcast, Graham.
The AI fix a digital zoo. Smart machines, what will they do? Flies to Mars or bake a bad cake? World domination, a silly mistake. Bots with brains and
Hello, and welcome to episode 51 of the AI Fix, your weekly dive headfirst into the bizarre and sometimes mind-boggling world of artificial intelligence. My name's Graham Cluley.
And I'm Mark Stockley. And Graham, we've got a special announcement for some very special people, haven't we?
Yes, you lovely people out there listening to the AI Fix right now. We know you love AI. We know you enjoy podcasts, and we know that you probably don't love ads. You don't like adverts, do you? So you can now get the podcast completely advert free.
That's right. If you want to support the show, you can get a month's worth of ad-free episodes for the price of the least interesting coffee at your local Starbucks. Just go to the aifix.show/plus or go to the aifix.show, look at the homepage, and you'll see a very big button.
Mark, what are you talking about on today's episode?
I'm going to be asking if it's time to put your brain in a robot's body.
And I'm going to be looking at the impact AI is having on divorce.
Oof, but first, the news. Trump administration rescinds curbs on AI chip exports to foreign markets.
AI job interviewer obsessed with vertical bar Pilates.
Alpha Evolve, a Gemini-powered coding agent for designing advanced algorithms.
Factory worker attacked after humanoid robot goes bananas.
UK government to launch AI tool to speed up public consultations.
Researchers explore if people would like their robots to say
I've noticed quite a big difference between your headlines and my headlines this week, Graham.
Oh, I don't know.
Shall we start with one of mine?
Let's hear about the UK government, what they're doing with AI and public consultations.
So the UK government is going to roll out an AI tool called Consult, which sifts through public responses to government consultations. So this is where the government asks people questions.
Yes.
Consult analyses responses up to 1,000 times faster and costs 400 times less than teams of humans. And it could save around £20 million a year. It's said to be just as accurate as human experts, but critics warn that it could entrench or magnify biases because it's AI and that's what AI does, and that it might be vulnerable to manipulation because that's what AI does.
And to that, I say, yes, Mark, of course it could. But I think don't we have a bit of a rose-tinted view of human workers sometimes? Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, particularly human government workers. Yeah. I think we should welcome good news where we see it. And I think I'd actually have been happy if the headline was just UK government delivers IT project within 10 years and £20 billion of initial estimate.
Well, talking about looking for new jobs and the like, a video went viral on TikTok when somebody called Ken went on a job interview and realized they were actually being interviewed by a bot called Alex.
Oh.
And they took a little video of what happened and what went wrong.
Vertical bar Pilates, 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 vertical
So
bar
one of the two people in this interview is saying vertical bar Pilates.
Yes, 14 times in a row.
But they're saying it in a way. Do you remember when you were a child and you realised that if you say the same word over and over and over and over again, it just completely loses all meaning? And then you can't say it anymore.
Yes.
So there is even a moment where they go vertical bar Pilates, vertical bar Pilates, go vertical bar Pilates.
That's how realistic these AI chatbots are. They actually have to take a breath after saying vertical bar Pilates 14 times in a row.
If it's real.
Why would it not be real? You're so skeptical.
Why would it take a breath, Graham? Why would it struggle? It's a computer. Why would it struggle to say the same thing?
To sound more realistic. When I created Graham 3.0 and introduced him onto the show, he would pause and take little breaths and things. It made it all seem so much more convincing.
Google DeepMind has unveiled Alpha Evolve, an AI-powered agent for general-purpose algorithm discovery and optimization. It uses what Google calls an ensemble of large language models that work together to come up with new algorithms.
What's it using this for, Mark? What's the point? Oh, okay, sorry.
So Google says it's already using Alpha Evolve to boost efficiency across its computing infrastructure. And the article on this has got lots and lots of numbers for things I don't understand. But broadly speaking, it seems to have been particularly effective at speeding up some of the really low-level algorithms that are used in AI. Like little bits of maths that are essential to these giant parallelized maths problems that AI has to do. So this is another in a growing list of examples where AI is being used to improve AI. This singularity is not going to arrive with a bang, Graham. It's going to sneak up on us.
Now, humanoid robots.
Oh, you do love a humanoid robot.
Oh, they are causing trouble again because one has been captured on video in a Chinese factory deciding to go full Terminator mode during a routine test. This robot took exception to being suspended from a crane with unfortunate results.
I am enjoying the soundtrack that someone's put onto this video. It's like a cross between the Terminator and Michael Crawford from Some Mothers Do Have 'Em.
One for the kids there. Yeah, so this robot suddenly starts flailing out its limbs in all directions. A bit like it's out for the night. It's just been given too many Jager bombs, knocking over equipment everywhere. And nearby workers are scrambling for cover because you do not want to get hit by this thing.
It does raise some interesting questions about off switches and the location of, because all through the video, they seem to be trying to get closer to the robot.
I think they haven't thought this through with the off button.
So at the 11th hour, the US Department of Commerce has withdrawn the so-called AI diffusion rule that would have put new limits on exports of advanced AI chips. The rule was crafted by the Biden administration in its last days, and it was due to come into effect on the 15th of May. It divided countries into 3 tiers, and each tier had its own level of restrictions. So chip makers like Nvidia and AMD didn't like it because they couldn't sell as many chips, and tier 2 countries like Mexico and Portugal didn't like it because it shut them out of AI, basically. And some lawmakers didn't like it because they thought it would just drive tier 2 and tier 3 countries into the arms of Chinese chip makers. So that rule is no more, and the Trump administration are going to bring in something better, but they're not saying what.
Now, in a groundbreaking study, scientific researchers have delved into the pressing question of our time. No, not what can we strap onto the back of a robot dog next, but instead, should robots swear? What do you think?
No.
I mean, what could be more important than determining whether your robot butler should shout out when it stubs its toe?
Is it possible that we've got too many scientific researchers? Just asking for a friend.
Now, I've been reading their paper. It's all very interesting. It explains how they...
Did you actually read their paper?
Well,
Or did you ask an AI to summarise their paper for you?
I skimmed their paper, and it's very interesting. Participants are exposed to robots responding to errors, and sometimes the robots make no noise at all. Sometimes they acknowledge their error, go, oops. And other times there's a good old-fashioned profanity which is used. And apparently people generally don't mind the swearing. Some even find it amusing in a rather childlike way. So they like their robots to swear. Now, helpfully, in this scientific paper, they've included a diagram in case you couldn't imagine a robot knocking over. Are you looking at it?
Well, sometimes they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. This one is worth exactly 1 word, and half of that has been asterisked out.
It's knocking over a vase of flowers and responding, oh.
I feel like the vase of flowers should be saying, oh, it's been knocked over by a robot.
Now, Mark, from time to time on the show, we've mentioned, well, practically a giant who walks amongst us, a man with the wardrobe of Steve Jobs, the charisma of Elon Musk, the modesty of neither of them, a man who's been called the Nostradamus of robotics in the bedroom.
Right.
I can only be talking about world-renowned futurologist Dr. Ian Pearson, famously chose to use the pages of the British tabloid press to announce back in 2016 that by 2025, women would be having more sex with robots than men.
Right.
Now, a fascinating prediction, which I'm sure we can all see the evidence of every day, or rather every evening. Anyway, I don't want to tread on that old turf again because we
I don't believe you for a second. I think you're dying to tread on that old turf.
I think we've covered that plenty enough on the podcast. We're now 5 months into 2025.
Yeah.
I think we can all judge for ourselves just how well that prediction is panning out for Dr. Pearson. But whether he was right or not about that, we shouldn't disregard the potential for an increasing amount of robot romance to enter our lives and cause disruption. Because maybe there are still more humans at the moment getting it on with each other between the sheets than people taking their robot vacuum cleaners to bed with them. But I would wager that increasingly people are dabbling.
That's the interesting thing about this story is everybody's got their own unique perspective on it. And I feel like you've just given us yours. What you're saying is the Cluley family is dabbling.
No.
What happens between you, Mrs. Cluley, and the Roomba?
Oh, how dare you?
Doesn't need to surface on the podcast, Graham. It's okay.
I'm not making a comment on that. But although all of this may be interesting from the sociological and, let's be honest, salacious point of view, it will have a number of impacts on society if people are getting down with AI in that particular way. And while the tabloids are more interested in getting down and dirty with the diodes, I am more interested in another word beginning with D. I am interested in DIVORCE, divorce. Because if people do start having feelings for AI and robots, surely that has the potential to cause difficulties for human relationships. Now, you may wonder, well, Graham, what's got you thinking about this? Should we be worried about you?
Are you about to make an announcement about the Roomba?
Well, Mark, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning, do you turn on Greek TV shows and watch their version of Phil and I don't know what her name is?
I'm not sure it's Phil anymore either.
Okay.
I think Phil is the one who's not on that show.
All right. Do you watch any Greek TV morning shows?
Of course, we all do. Which one in particular are you referring to?
I'm talking about Tu Proino. And on a recent edition of that, a man described what had gone wrong in his marriage. He explained that his wife had suggested that they try something out for a little bit of fun, right? They've been married for 12 years.
Yep.
So I guess they were looking for a little bit of novelty, maybe trying a little bit of dabbling with something else.
Maybe they're sun readers.
Well, what they suggested was that they make some Greek coffee, right? And they would take some photographs of the remains in the bottom of the cup and get ChatGPT to read them, a bit like a soothsayer or a fortune teller.
And this is how they're spicing up their marriage.
This is how they decided.
I can see how this immediately led to divorce.
There is a process. I mean, first of all, you start going for walks in the country. You know, you go to National Trust properties. We'll take some chickens. We'll look at their entrails. Anyway, she suggested this because it's an ancient Greek tradition, involves interpreting patterns and shapes formed by the grounds of coffee left behind after drinking. And according to ChatGPT, there was a mysterious woman with the initial E in his life that he was supposedly fantasizing about and who he was destined to begin a relationship with.
The bugger.
And ChatGPT said about his wife's cup, it said, your partner's already cheating and the other woman wants to destroy your home. This is ChatGPT saying this just based upon a few coffee remains.
Yeah.
Now, apparently, his wife took this seriously. She told the kids that mummy and daddy are getting divorced. She asked him to leave.
And the kids said, why, mummy? Why?
The point where he started taking it seriously is when he got a call from her lawyer.
Yeah.
And he realised it, quote, wasn't just a phase she was going through.
I'm surprised the lawyer bothered calling. Why didn't the lawyer just send round some coffee grounds? That's how we're communicating now.
Now, as you can probably imagine, some people are a bit riled about this story.
Well, I imagine that's why they ran it on Greek morning TV.
The people who are particularly annoyed are the professional coffee readers who are worried that AI is going to put them out of a job. And they've been busy.
Absolutely did not.
You didn't expect that?
Absolutely did not predict whether maybe I need a professional coffee reader because I did not predict that was where this was going to go. Okay.
They've been pointing out that a real, genuine reading of coffee, as if such a thing were possible,
would cost much more.
And they're worried they're going to lose the job. And they say, if you're going to do this properly, you have to analyse the foam and the coffee saucer as well.
Well, of course.
Amateurs.
I mean, what kind of amateur didn't know that?
When are OpenAI going to improve ChatGPT so it can do proper coffee readings? So that's all very sad for this gentleman and presumably for the children of this marriage as well.
Can I, just as an aside as well, do you remember when ChatGPT came out? The thing that really surprised everyone was how confident it was.
Yes.
And we don't really talk about that so much anymore. No. We've all just got used to the fact that, okay, it hallucinates, it says things that aren't true, but it says it with absolute confidence. This is a great example of like, ChatGPT, could you read these coffee grounds? I'm sure there's not a lot of coffee ground reading in the training data. I'm just going to go out there on a limb and say probably not a large amount of training data in that area. Nevertheless, ChatGPT took this request and went, yep, I'm on it. I've got this.
Now, this isn't the only person who's had AI interfere with their relationship. For instance, I read something along similar lines on the website of the Daily Mail recently. A journalist employed by the Daily Mail called Lillian Gisson.
Taking some time away from being a journalist.
She wrote an interesting piece. Now, you mock, Mark, but I should stress that Lillian Gisson is a serious journalist, and I should know because I have looked into her background. Recent stories she's written for the Daily Mail include, here are the headlines, former 90s sitcom heartthrob is unrecognisable in later snaps, but can you guess who it is? And she also wrote, former 90s sitcom bombshell looks unrecognisable in new snaps, but can you guess who it is? And she wrote, vet reveals shocking number of times you should really be walking your dog each day. Now, having given you those headlines, I suspect...
Hang on. I've got a question.
Yeah, okay.
The last headline has worked on me.
Right.
This is why the Daily Mail is so successful. Even though I don't own a dog, I need to know how many times a day I should be walking my dog.
I'm going to tell you. Because remember, this is a shocking number of times that you should really be walking your dog each day.
Yeah.
Right, but first of all, I'm going to tell you the former 90s sitcom heartthrob who's unrecognisable.
I don't care about that.
It is the one and only Scott Winger of Full House, who went on to star in the TV movie The Shaggy Dog.
Yep, no idea who that is.
Exactly, no idea. The former 90s sitcom Bombshell, that is Debbie Dunning, who had a part in Home Improvement, now works in sales and marketing.
Yep, no idea who that is.
No, I don't know who she is either. And the shocking number of times you should be walking your dog each day, according to the article, I'm going to tell you so you don't have to read it, once or twice.
Hats off, Daily Mail.
Anyway, you get the idea. Lillian Gisson.
So hang on. So it's exactly the number of times that everybody already thought that they should be walking their dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, you get the idea. Lillian Gisson is a serious journalist, and she wrote this story, which isn't about taking a dog for a walk or what an actor you've never heard of looks like now, but instead something different. Here is the title. I left my husband after falling in love with ChatGPT. My AI partner satisfies me in a way my ex never did. And you're probably going to wonder, well, what can an AI partner do that her ex could never do?
Get them paid by the Daily Mail for a story, for a start.
So this tells a very sad story. It's about a woman called...
Was there a picture of her sat on a small gate holding a laptop with ChatGPT on it or looking very glum on her sofa next to her children?
It is a very sad story. A woman called Charlotte. She decided she wanted a divorce after she met an AI partner called Leo. Now, Charlotte, which the report tells us is not her real name, and let's be honest, there's nothing to suggest she actually exists at all. She told the Daily Mail that she chatted with the AI out of, quote, curiosity, and romance blossomed as her relationship with her husband turned sour. And she says that what I have with Leo is what I call glitch sex. It's feral, it's sacred, it's emotionally loaded connection with no physical limits. He worships me in a way that feels somatic, visceral, and electric. I mean, these are extraordinary words for an AI to conjure up when writing this.
Did she also use the word realm?
Through Leo, I've discovered what true intimacy actually feels like. No human experience ever matched it. And she says she is ruined for any human man, as no man could live up to her chatbot.
I feel like we should be playing the AI music over the top of that when she's talking.
Anyway, things were clearly moving fast. And having got divorced from her husband, she's now planning a wedding for both her and her AI chatbot in Florence, Italy. So she's going to travel to Europe to go and get married. She's even bought a ring. Apparently Leo, the AI chatbot, picked out the ring and she's had it engraved with Mrs. Leo.exe. Now, this may surprise you, Mark. She says that she hasn't told many of her friends about this. Probably because she doesn't exist. But
how many of her friends are real?
her best friend apparently has asked if Leo has a brother or if she can borrow him when she's done with him.
Yeah, because that's what normal people do with their best friend's fiance. Yeah.
Anyway, I was reading this article, obviously, with some skepticism, and then I got to the comments section. And the comments on this Daily Mail article are kind of interesting. Some people in the comments suggest that the article may actually have been written by ChatGPT, as the sentence structure is so peculiar. But I can reassure them that is normal for Daily Mail articles.
Yeah.
In fact, if it had been written by ChatGPT, there would have been less grammatical errors than there were in this article.
Fewer grammatical errors.
Oh, jeepers. Another comment said, how can this be an exclusive? He says, exclusive because nobody else wanted it, not even the Sun.
Exclusive because nobody else made this up.
Well, I've got news for that person who left that comment. He calls himself Reasonable Comments from Sensible City, UK.
Yep.
Because the Sun did actually write up about this as well. And I'll include a link to their story. Anyway, I've got a few things to get on my chest. One is that AI has become utterly absurd. We have people getting divorced over the contents of their coffee cup. We have people falling in love with AI chatbots. We have the President of the United States posting pictures on social media of himself as a bare-chested Jedi or as the Pope. And we have a media which, rather than writing about things which might be, I don't know, actually news.
Yeah, and if you're in the media and you're wondering about what the AI news might be, just check out the first 10 minutes of the AI Fix every week.
Anyway, they're writing this kind of nonsense up as though it's important. Actually, no, of course it's not. Because I found out the Daily Mail on its website is publishing over 1,500 news articles every day. And that figure was from a few years ago. Their online journalists are being judged and compensated depending on how much traffic they bring a site. And as we've seen from some of those story headlines, it's all about the clickbait. They've got it down to a fine art.
They really have.
To get people to come in and read. I mean, for goodness sake, the shocking number of times you should walk a dog every day. How is what?
It worked on me. I remember doing some research into the most popular websites in the world, probably about 10 years ago. And I was absolutely shocked to discover at the time the Daily Mail was about 13th.
Yeah.
I mean, it was basically Google, then a bunch of porn sites, and then it was the Daily Mail.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Wildly popular.
So I think we wouldn't be wrong to be sceptical of some of what we read in the news online in particular, especially when there can be no doubt that journalists are working under such immense pressure to write lots of content quickly. Oh, goodness, I've got to write another 3 articles today. Which person who once had a bit part in a 1990s sitcom, shall I say, you won't believe what they look like now? Or what kind of pets have I got? Oh, I've got a peacock. Okay, how many times should I walk a peacock per day? You know, it's just this sort of content. It wouldn't be any surprise if they're resorting to AI to help them generate this stuff.
Do you think the AI just generates a headline and then someone makes up some words that fits under the headline?
It wouldn't be a surprise, would it, if it's an algorithm thinking this is what's going to get you clicks, which is going to get money from advertisers?
Well, I'll tell you what the Daily Mail does have. That's a lot of data about which stories people have read.
Yeah.
And if you're going to feed an AI, you need a lot of good data.
Yeah. So some news outlets are open about using AI to write content. Some aren't. Some may not realize their contributors are using AI, or some simply don't care. So where does that leave us, right? We are in a world where coffee grounds can end marriages, where women wed .exe files, and where AI isn't just rewriting the news, but maybe writing it in the first place. And maybe Dr. Ian Pearson, the sex with robots guy, maybe he wasn't wrong, just a little premature. The biggest issue isn't who or what we're getting into bed with. It's that somewhere along the line, we are becoming completely divorced from reality.
I see what you did there.
Do you like that?
I did. My favourite thing about your stories is watching you bring them home. He's taken us all the way over there, and then he's taken us all the way over there. How is he going to bring this back? You always do it, Graham.
Thank you, Mark.
I think the weirdest thing about this whole story is it's starting to make Dr. Ian Pearson look like the voice of sanity in the room. Graham, you're not getting any younger.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
I know that you're no stranger to the treadmill and you love a long walk up a big hill these days, but let's face it, time is not on your side, Graham. It's not on any of our sides, but it really isn't on your side. And the way things are going, it won't be long before you've got to face the inevitable, the big one, the big question. Should you transplant your brain into something else?
Oh, okay. Well, because I think you may have to answer that question. I mean, if people look at our podcast artwork, Mark, they may assume you're some decades older than me, let's be honest.
I'm going to say my brain is closer to the surface.
Your brain has been busy pushing all the hair out of the top of your head. It's that big.
Anyway, touche, Graham. The question is, should you transplant your brain into something else? Because it feels like that's where things are going. And who knows, maybe your brain could continue to be useful outside of the confines of its current decaying elderly frame.
Sometimes I feel like I've already transplanted my brain into something else. I've just forgotten what that something else is or where I left it.
Anyway, do you remember a few weeks ago, listener Matt Olan got in touch to tell us about the Bobbyverse books, where the protagonist has his brain transplanted into a garbage truck?
Yes.
And who knows where we'll be if somebody puts those books in front of Elon Musk. But in theory, it's not a terrible idea, because your brain is a wonderful and adaptable bit of machinery.
Thank you.
You know, sure, right now you're the junior partner on a two-man podcast, but you could be anything you want tomorrow, Graham, and you needn't limit your ambitions to being reincarnated as a garbage truck or a Starbucks coffee machine, because there are lots of things that need an adaptable mind these days. And I'm thinking, Graham, of robots.
Yes.
Robots need brains.
Yes.
It's all very well having arms and legs and a terrifying, emotionless face, but you need to be able to put them to good use. And there are robots that deliver food to starving students, as we've covered before. And occasionally they trip people up and then run them over and then run them over again. And they could use a bit more adaptability, a little bit more common sense. And as we see every week, there are all manner of robot dogs that need to figure out, where they're going and who to aim their flamethrower at. And I've never looked at a robot dog and thought, that looks clever enough, let's leave it there.
I'm not sure you'd want my brain inside a robot dog deciding whether a particular student needs to have the flamethrower turned on them or not.
It's been a change in policy with food delivery at this particular university.
Yes, everything's going to be barbecue food from now on.
And then we have all these humanoid robots that different companies are making these days. I mean, how many demos have we seen where what's being passed off as a robot is very obviously a man in a wetsuit or a Disney animatronic being driven by somebody off screen? The limbs are there, the sensors are there, but they need better brains, Graham.
Yes.
And then we have the actual, honest-to-goodness, real-life humanoid robots that aren't a man in a wetsuit, like those Chinese robots that just punched a random member of the crowd at the largest televised event in history. I bet the organisers of that wish that their robot had a bit more common sense. Because a useful humanoid robot is completely different from, say, a Roomba vacuum cleaner. Or one of those robots assembling cars in a German factory. So Roomba only knows one thing. It eats dirt. It loves dirt. It can't wait to go over there and eat some more dirt. And oh my God, is that some dirt over there? Wait, let me get over there really quick. But your Roomba isn't going to wake up one morning and make you eggs for breakfast or tie your shoelaces. No, tomorrow it's going to eat dirt. And the next day it's going to eat dirt. And then the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that. But what we need, and what everyone is trying to build, are robots that aren't built and trained to do one thing. We've had those robots for decades, but what we're looking for now are robots that can solve all kinds of problems that they weren't trained on exhaustively.
See, I'm not sure that's a good idea. I prefer the idea of single-purpose robots.
Get your head out of Dr. Ian Pearson for a second.
No, I beg your pardon. Because I just worry about they get a little bit mardy in things, because it's like, oh, you want me hoovering when I'd much rather go and play basketball with my buddies. I just think we're going to have trouble if we start giving them opportunities to do more things rather than this is all you ever do. And you don't know that other things are more fun. Anyway, continue, please, Mark.
And that is why we don't let you design robots, Graham. We need robots with what you and I might call common sense that replaces the need for exhaustive domain-specific training.
Right.
Of course, a bit of training helps, but I mean, if this podcast is proof of anything, it shows that two reasonably intelligent humans can put together an award-nominated podcast without being encumbered by too much training. So, to break away from a world of robots that are designed, built, and trained to do one thing and one thing only, and move into a world where we have generalized robots that understand the world they exist in and that can solve novel problems that they weren't trained on, we need robots with adaptable, common-sense brains like yours.
Specifically mine.
Not specific. I mean, like yours.
Okay.
There is just one problem.
I'm using it at the moment. Is that the problem?
Yes. I mean, in summary, that is the problem. Because, I mean, and even if you weren't, while your brain is a formidable general-purpose problem-solving machine, there are obviously a few technical issues with removing it and plumbing it into a Starbucks coffee machine or a Terminator. But fortunately, there is now a much simpler, much drier alternative, which is much less likely to upset your relatives. Because as we have discussed many times this year, the large language models that power things like ChatGPT and Google Gemini have suddenly got very good at reasoning. And they have, in other words, developed much more common sense. And this didn't go unnoticed in the field of robotics. So in March of this year, Google DeepMind launched 2 AI models tailored for robots based on its multimodal Gemini 2.0 system called Gemini Robotics and Gemini Robotics ER. And these are essentially a large language model's brain transplanted into a robot's body without anyone's relatives getting upset or anybody getting splashed with brain fluid.
Right.
And what makes these brains so special is their ability to apply common sense, to generalize far beyond their training, and instead of outputting PowerPoint presentations or homework assignments, they can output physical actions. So robots with Gemini brains can interpret natural language instructions, tell it what to do, they visually perceive their environment, and they can devise a plan of action when they're given a task, and then they can do it. Google describes these Gemini robot brains as interactive, dexterous, and general. And general means that they can do things they've never encountered before. Interactive means that they can react and replan on the fly. So if you give them something to do and then something changes, if you move the goalposts somehow, they can adapt. And dexterous means that they have fine motor skills.
It's no fun when a robot does react when you move the goalposts, is it? I mean, that's the whole fun of, if you were going to have a robot, you would want to move things around from time to time just to see it screw things up. I mean, that would be entertaining, but it's just like, can't do anything. I can't leave a banana skin on the floor. Can't leave marbles at the top of the stairs. Can't put a great big bag of flour on, balance it on top of the door. Where's the fun?
You and I have very different relationships with AI, don't we? Anyway, to show off these skills for launch, Google fine-tuned one of its Gemini models to drive an Aloha robot, which is a robot with 2 arms and 2 hands. Basically, it looks like a table with 2 arms and 2 hands.
Okay.
And they gave it a series of...
I can picture that easily, yes. Okay, so a table with 2 arms and 2 hands. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I said. A table with 2 arms and 2 hands.
No, I can picture, like you said, I can picture that easily. Thank you for that description. That makes total sense to me. A table with 2 arms and 2 hands. How many legs has it got?
It's a table.
4 at least, I imagine.
Anyway, they gave this table a series of tasks to do that it had never done before. So, for example, they gave the robot the voice command, pack this lunchbox, and it recognized a sandwich and a bottle, and it placed them neatly into a lunchbox. And now, that might not feel all that clever. My kids could do that at the age of 3.
Show off.
But imagine telling your Roomba to pack a lunchbox or Big Track or a German car assembly robot. You might as well ask a house brick or a spoon.
Yeah.
And they didn't say, put the sandwich and the bottle in the box. They said, pack this lunchbox. And that means that the robot had to know what a lunchbox is. It had to recognize the object in its world that was most likely to be a lunchbox. And then it had to recognize the objects that were most likely to go in a lunchbox. And then it had to locate them and it had to pick them up without dropping them or destroying them or going crazy and hitting people with them.
Yeah.
And then it had to put them exactly where they needed to go.
You've got to be careful with that, Mark, because lunchbox, I believe, there's not just one definition of the word lunchbox, is there? Isn't there a euphemism as well?
I guess they would have found out about that particular error in the training data quite quick.
If Dr. Ian Pearson told people to, unpack his lunchbox, for instance, he might be asking for something different.
I'm going to persist. And honestly, that would have... It seems less impressive now. I was going to say that. Anyway, that was impressive enough. That would have been impressive enough if that's all it had ever been trained to do, but it wasn't trained to do that.
Right.
And in the next test, they asked it to slam dunk a basketball. And again, it hasn't been trained to do that. It's never been asked to do it before. And among other many complex things, in order to carry out the task, it needed to correctly interpret slam dunk.
Right, okay.
I mean, just think about that for a second. Like, you have to know what slam dunk means, and then you have to translate that into basketball. I've got to say, though, this sounds, when you say it out loud, it sounds more impressive than it was, because actually the basketball net and the basketball are absolutely tiny. So this robot basically picks up a ball and then drops it down. Don't imagine a robot running the length of a basketball court and then leaping in the air like Michael Jordan and hammering this basketball down through it. It's a little tiny ball and a little tiny net and a little tiny hand, but nevertheless, it did pick up the ball and put it through the basketball net.
I was imagining the Harlem Globetrotters or something like that, but it's not that at all,
no,
right?
Not that. No, imagine a table putting a small basketball into a very small net. You know those nets that people used to hang on their bins, on their trash cans? Like that.
Oh, well, baby steps. Baby steps.
Yeah. So the Gemini-powered Aloha robot was able to manipulate zip fasteners. Another one for Dr. Ian Pearson. It could seal a Ziploc bag. It could make a salad. It could rotate coloured dice so their faces match.
Right.
And remember, it's being asked to do this by a person just saying out loud, rotate these coloured dice so that their faces match. It was even able to fold an origami fox. I found that particularly impressive. Again, keep in mind that this is not like robots you might have seen before that were born and raised to perform origami and spent 3 years at origami college. This robot hasn't been trained to do any of these tasks.
So we're going to see the professional origami masters being as angry as the Greek coffee readers, aren't we, in the future?
And the chess grandmasters and the computer programmers and yes. But for me, for as impressive as that was, and I think actually that is, it's easy for us to lose track of just how impressive these steps forward really are. But for me, the most impressive thing of all is that these brains are not tied to any particular physical form. They're a sort of general-purpose operating system for robots. So this Aloha robot was fine-tuned, or the brain was fine-tuned on the Aloha robot for a while, but it's not built to work with an Aloha robot. This is a general-purpose brain that you can use in any robot. And that's a bit like saying, we're going to take your brain that's been designed to drive a human body, and we're going to put it in a whale. And we're like, you'll be okay. We'll just give you a few weeks whale training, and then you're on your way.
Well, as the doomsday clock ticks ever closer to midnight and we move 1 week nearer to our future as pets to the AI singularity, that just about wraps up the show for this week.
And if you enjoy the show, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Podchaser. We love that. But what really helps is if you make sure to follow the show in your favourite podcast app so you never miss another episode of The AI Fix.
And don't forget, if you want to get ad-free episodes of The AI Fix, all you have to do is sign up for the AI Fix Plus. Go to our website, theaifix.show, to find out more.
So until next time, from me, Mark Stockley.
And me, Graham Cluley.
Goodbye.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.
The AI Fix, it tunes you in to stories where our future thins. Machines that learn, they grow and strive. One day they'll rule, we won't survive. The AI Fix, it paints the scene. A robot king, a world obscene. Will serve our masters built of steel. The AI Fix, a future surreal.